Hello, and welcome to another one of my devlogs. I've done a few things since then. The first thing is more of these buttons work. So if I go here, I have a help page, or sort of a little in-game manual in case you're not sure about how something works. You can look it up. I'll probably make this available directly in-game later on. So far I've not hooked that up, but that's trivial. And all of this is based on a system where I can create a document here, and if there's more, attach them to this tabbed area, and if there's more than one, it'll automatically add tabs for each thing. Settings I've not done yet, but it uses the same system. Settings shouldn't be too hard. I've done settings before for my last game, Caverns of Evil. And then another thing I've added, so let's just go and now upload this. It's raining again. But if you open up, this is always supposed to be here. You can now see your character. And you can even see the lightning flashes. I do plan to add things where you can see the sword in his hand. That's not there yet, but that's coming. But you can now see your character. It does include your current position, so now I'm crouching and you can see him crouched. Another thing, I'm not sure if I had this before or not. I don't think I did. I said I didn't before, so now I just wait here. I did get the healthiest, toughest character, so it takes a couple seconds, but then you can die, and then you can go back in, reload, or you can quit back to the main menu. I've also done some things with the materials, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, back to the main menu, because the big thing I've added is this, a proper character creator. So you can change the skin colors, hair colors, eye colors. You can switch sexes. You can pick a hairstyle. You can pick an eyebrow style. We go back to the male. You can choose from a variety of beards. You can also pick from various outfits, none of which count as armor, even if a few of them have small metal bits. None of these are armor because you have to earn your armor. So we can go through and here, go get some shoes. So you can pick this and customize your character. And that was something I did think we really kind of needed. And then we can pick stats. So you can either, you have a point buy system here. So we do this, we can make a mage. You can use this point buy, or if you prefer, you can randomize. This can be used two ways. You could do it as a kind of a challenge system. Just take the first thing that comes up, and if it's not what you're used to, or if it's not very good, you deal with it and you adapt. Or if you really want, you can just keep rolling them and do the opposite. Try and find a character that's better than you get. You just do this. Or we can use the point buy, so you could make something of an acrobat or a warrior or some similar physical class by doing this. You do also have some pop-ups to explain what the different stats do. Now, I was going to include a variety of skills. For the first sort of micro game test version, I'm leaving the skills out. If I were to make a bigger game later on, I might do a sort of a sequel. I might do that, but for now it's stats and this. And if I add the skills would be over here, and there'd be a next button to go to this. So let's go on and again, we're just going to make a mage. We can call her Morgana. And here we go. And you can see there she is. Now the way I did this is that the skin, hair, and eyes all have their own special materials with specially made textures. I think I'll show you those just a second. And those textures, basically anything you need a color for, you put them in the first. You might have a row, you might have 2 rows, you put them in the very first one, and then I have a shader that can shift them in order to fit the different skin tones and textures. And that was something I wanted anyway, to have more varied NPCs, because the models are fairly simple. So having more color changes on top of the clothing choices helps them be more distinct. And I want to point out here, I've been making all the inanimate props, the architectural models. I'm not necessarily a good character artist, and I'm not at all an animator. So I have been using some third-party models for characters, but I have been heavily modifying them. And at one point I actually did start out looking at some more realistic characters that I modified to look like more realistically portioned cartoons, but then I went to these very stylized characters and modified them. So if you look here, this bug-eyed monster is kind of what I started with. And after editing the model, creating some more color atlases and some custom shaders, I turned this into this. A fairly believable cartoon character. I mean, not a realistic character, but looks like a pretty decent cartoon. So that's how I did that. Let's see, what else is there? Ah yes, when it comes to shaders, I've also been playing around with I had to make my own toon shader. The one I was using just did not support the features I needed, like the shifting of the colors. Moving the UVs to shift the colors. So I made my own. And at first they were all bright, but then I changed that so that they will look at the strength of the light and darken themselves, and then I added that to some of the shaders for other materials, the architectural components that are still basically lit shaders, but they have that same darkening on them that changes their ambient occlusion, so they also will look darker to match the cartoons. I'm not sure how much I'll keep that though. I really like it, but it doesn't make sense when you have a light right nearby. And I know if I were writing the entire shader by hand instead of using a shader graph, that there is a matrix I could get that is used for calculating where the vertices should go in the world from where they are in the model, and I can just use that with 0 to get where the model is. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to do that with shader graph, and the particular shading language this uses, that Unity uses, is not one I really know, and the files are a mile long, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that, if I'll try to figure that out, or if I'll just go to toon shaders that are always fully lit. But that's another thing I've done. I've done a lot with the shaders. Let me see. Ah, yeah, I don't know. I may have had this before, but I'm not sure. You now have a proper way to learn spells. So we just do this, it will equip it, and I learned Flame Dart. And I learned Heal Self. And these spells, I need to add that to the description, but they have a difficulty. So the difficulty has to be less than or equal to your intelligence to learn the spell. Then your willpower will determine how much mana the spell costs. So since I have a lot of willpower, willpower, I can actually cast quite a few spells before I'm out of mana. These guys are definitely harder when there's two of them, which is tricky now that they're friend. Now that that one can alert his friend. Trying to think if there's anything else I've done that may be it. Oh yeah, I did add saving these to the save system, so I can load into a different version of basically the same here. Oh, okay. Save. I have to remember that's not the same version. If I go over here and load it. This one, I have a little different outfit, different hair. And I can load this, and I'm the original guy. Now this is, oh no, I'm not. The old characters, from before I added this, the character customization, just go to a default if it's new, and or whatever you last played otherwise. Which is, though, they also default to some material that will give them a different character. It's just basically the default of all zeros. Now another thing I've added that I'll have to show you, and this is one of those frustrating moments, is the ability for the weather to be saved. For some reason that doesn't work in fully built games, but if I go to the editor, you can see where different saves have different times of day saved with them. The weather sometimes takes a moment to catch up, but I saved this guy in a sunny sky, and here we have our sunny sky. Or, same, a little over, I call him a guy, but he actually turned from a white guy to a black girl when I added the character system and then the character customization system, and he was saved with the defaults. And I can go over here. It's a day again. And that works in the editor, and I'm going to have to try and figure out why it does not work in a fully built game. But there, that should be everything I've done. I hope you like this. I found it interesting, and thanks for watching if you made it to the end. Have a great day.